I think we are live.
The stream is live.
Awesome. Alrighty. Hello, everyone. Mike the Beast back for another fun episode of Excitement. And I'm not alone. Chris V, how's it going, buddy?
It's going good, man. How are you?
Good, thanks. So tonight, as you guys can all see by the title, we are ranking the top 13. Well, I'm already messing up. All 13 of the Beatles' U.S. released albums. If you look at their discography as a whole, it gets a little confusing with U.S. releases and U.K. releases, and then singles and 45s, and it gets crazy. So 13 is a good number. It's all U.S. releases, and we had such a blast. What kind of the birth of this idea came from when Chris and I did our review of the Get Back special on Disney Plus. We had a blast. If you want to go back after this video any other time, check that out. We had such a good time reviewing that, and we're gushing all over the Beatles. So this video will be wording, Mike. So this video will be more of a true ranking video, less album review. Trying to keep this under an hour and a half. If I can do it under an hour, that'd be amazing. I doubt it though. But we're looking to have a good time. We're letting some people come in here. We got we have and I already forgot how to share stuff. There we go. Jazz King's in the house. How's it going? We've got Eddie, the producer, a musician extraordinaire. We got my buddy Jesse, Planet Mayhem. We got my buddy Ian. Mike, Brother Blaze, how's it going? And I knew that wasn't gonna escape me.
Gushing. Oh my god.
So starting off with some laughs is great. Once again, Chris and I are both. So we got we were both huge Beatles fans, and we were both very talented musicians. Chris is normally is my lead whenever I'm recording or playing live. So another cool thing about us doing this together, two bandmates talking about our favorite band. And before it gets too out of hand, let's start this little shindig and look at that. So,
yep, this is our this is our high school presentation of our top Beatle records. When after we did the Get Back thing, like that's really the first thing that you suggested that we do was a top Beatles records like list, and I was literally the next day I was all in, and like it made me like force myself to like re-listen to everything that was like what I grew up listening to, which was probably not the best recordings of them, which was like the mixes, which was the 2009 remasters, because just the pannings on some of the stuff were just awkward in the ear. But like I forced myself to like re-listen to the stuff that I had still like on my CD collection at home, and just popped them into my old like CD player
Walkman.
and stuff. Yeah, my old. I didn't have a Walkman, sadly. I was the iPod Shuffle era.
You're that much younger than me.
I am that much younger than you.
Yeah, my introduction, which has made this a little, I guess, not difficult, but me growing up, my dad, CT Jazz King, he had ordered the Beatles one, pretty much greatest hits album. It's all their number one hits. So there's, as I grew older, listen more, learn more about the Beatles, it's amazing how many of their biggest songs, the songs that I like, weren't number one hits. So it's, around high school, and then even, around when Get Back came out, I was, listening to a lot of the albums, by album and in order. So I'm happy we waited maybe a little too long, but it gave me more time to really listen to these albums in a whole and really help gather my opinion when it came to rankings.
Yeah.
segueing to how we did this ranking video. If you guys tuned in for my MCU ranking I did a year or two ago, there were three of us, and at that time I think there were 30 something MCU products at the time. So we each came up with we had our individual rankings, and then we went to my old nemesis math and came up with a master list. And Chris and we decided to do it that way here. So what the slides are in order of the master list, and then as we go through the slides, we'll say where each of us had the album. And hey, Paul, how's it going? Thanks for tuning in, buddy. That's how we termed this list. I figured once again trying to keep it, in that time frame. I thought it was the best way to go to help this go on a fast pace. But we're looking to have a good time. So with that, Chris, why don't you take us away?
Yeah. So starting at number 13 of our executive decision here for our last one on the list was Beatles for Sale. Personally, for me, it didn't hit as hard as a lot of the other ones did. Also, it wasn't as memorable to me. Like I love I'm a Loser. I love 8 Days a Week. Like that, those two are classics off this. But like any other, I don't see myself willingly turn on. And it was also just kind of like it was that funk in between, because I think they just did. What was before this? I think before this was Hard Day's Night, and then it was Help right after. So like they had the two movie records like in between this, and it just didn't transition well, which is the main reason why I put it on the bottom of my list originally.
So for me, the Beatles for Sale, very prepared. Oh, here's my handy list. I had Beatles
I
for
should
Sale.
probably have that out.
I had it at my number 12, and I was telling Chris as we were getting ready for this, the Beatles ranking them was funny because they're the bottom 5 or so and the top 5 or so are so tough to rank. For the bottom 5, and once again, we're both huge Beatles fans, so speaking probably for Chris, there's no Beatles album we don't like. And these are 4 of the most talented musicians that ever, were and are. So a lot of their earlier albums, for those who don't know, had a lot of covers on them. So that made it really hard to rank. And, Beatles for Sale is an example of that. But to Chris's point, 8 Days a Week is such a good song. And then... Oh yeah, I agree. No Reply and I'm a Loser, I think, are a great 1-2 punch. So that's why this album starts out really fun. And Chris, which one was George Harrison's first song? Or is that?
No, it's not. It's not a different album. That's gotcha. On a different album.
I apologize. So yeah, it's a good album. It's got, once again, 8 Days a Week was on that Beatles one, and once again, I love the 1-2 punch of No Reply and I'm a Loser. But a lot of these other songs kind of don't leave that impact. The covers, they do their best with. And their originals, but for me, it's re-listenability, if that's a word, when it comes to ranking these, and how many times I go back to this, and how, for me, the flow of the albums go. For me, Beatles for Sale, after that beginning and a little nice 8 Days a Week in the middle of it, kind of loses its way for me.
Yeah, it's. I didn't really mind the covers on this one, which is the truth of it. Like I actually really enjoyed a lot of their versions of a lot of these popular songs. Especially Mr. Moon Nights. Like I loved what they did with that. But like, it's just like it compared to everything else they did. And like me just growing up, just, being thrown into Lion's Den and just everything being thrown at me. That's Beatles, whatever. Like this one never stuck out for me. Like I said, the only song was I'm a Loser. Like that's one Beatles song that I resonated a lot with when I was growing up. But like the album in its entirety, it's low tier for sure.
Cool. And Chris, what do we have next?
Up next is with the Beatles, their second album.
Beatles. So their second album, and this is a fun album. Funny enough, though, this was on the bottom. This was my 13th. And once again, this goes, like I said, a lot of covers on here. It's tough to rank, but when you go through the hits that are on here, It Won't Be Long. Once again, this starts out great. It Won't Be Long. Really good song. The vocals are awesome in rock and roll. All I've got to do is a fun little slower song. And then another classic Beatles song that surprisingly wasn't number one, All My Loving. Chris, we covered that, when we did that set at the farmer's market years ago.
Oh my God,
we did All My Loving.
Yeah. With when Athena was there.
Yep.
Yeah.
And other than that, the covers, lots of covers on here. Please, Mr. Postman, though, is a good cover from the Marvelettes. That's a female, sing song, and they did a really good job with those and the harmonies. Hold Me Tight's a fun song. Roll Over Beethoven, good cover, another good cover. But yeah, it's memorability, re-listenability. It fall, kind of, a little flat. But once again, I thought they did a good job with these covers. And It Won't Be Long, All I've Got to Do, All My Loving. Yeah. That's a solid start.
Yeah. First I gotta say, like, I love your little Shakespeare over here, just making up your own words. Please keep that forever. But like, this is the album, by the way, that had Harrison's first published song, which was "Don't Bother Me."
Yes.
And I thought he hit home with it on his first try. Definitely had a lot of like Harrison's. Sorry, I'm reading comments now. Yeah,
Sean, thanks for tuning in again. Back-to-back vids, and really good point.
Yeah, I mean, like that was always the one thing I admired by Lennon, like that I was actually talking with my mentor Brian Kelly, his wife Mary. We were talking about because she just watched the Elvis movie a while back ago, and like
I saw that was amazing. Yeah,
you could tell through like Lennon's early years, like he was trying to emulate Elvis's like whole thing, vocal style, like really try to be that bad boy. And like you could kind of see that he did that in a lot of his covers as well, like try to emulate the artist within the song more, and still make it original. And he didn't ever realize that later down the line that he was never going to be Presley, he was going to be Lennon, right? Like which is why one thing I really admired about what Lennon did with a lot of the early works with all those covers. Like he still embodied the original artist's work, but he made it Lennon's.
Absolutely.
But like with this album in particular, like I had this pretty high on my list. I think I had this like around. Oh no, I didn't. I had it at 10 on my list. Mostly because I love a lot of these songs. All My Loving's probably one of my number one favorites, but this also had my favorite cover that they did, which is You Really Got a Hold on Me. That is just a great blues ballad, and it's the harmonies that they did on it were perfect in my opinion. And there was just honestly, I don't know why I didn't put this higher. Now I'm like thinking back at it, like I don't know why I didn't put this higher. This is actually a really good second album. Because I mean, I really enjoy a lot of the covers on this. And I really enjoy a lot of the originals. But I think I put in the same mindset as with Beatles for Sale. Like there was just so many better things happening after this that I kind of had to put it lower on my list.
And then another good one I forgot to mention, Money, That's What I Want. I believe
Oh, folks, we lost Benson for a hot second.
Money, That's What I Want. That's Temptations, unless I'm wrong.
Yeah. Is it? I don't know.
I apologize. Please chat, and once again, Sean, thanks for coming. Guys, please feel free. If you guys put a comment in, I'd love to share. I'd love to hear your opinions on our takes on the albums as we go along throughout the show. So please feel free, put your opinions in. We like to be active with the chat. Correct me, because I'm sure I'm bound to make more mistakes. But yeah, money, that's what I want. That's Bradford Gordy. So good cover. and once again, these lower songs, it's not like we, despise them, if we're huge Beatles fans. So
Yeah.
it's just, and when you have their early stuff before they really find their way, they're still making a name for themselves. This time for music was amazing. When you had Motown going on, you had so much. So the Beatles were trying to separate themselves. Were also trying to get the attention from people who were listening to the big hits at the time. So to that point too, I think they, you could probably say more information about this, but managing and whoever was in charge of what covers they did, I thought they did a good job choosing songs that were big at the time.
Yeah, I don't know who was actually in charge of that. I never put thought to that. I'm gonna have to research it because I always thought they just kind of picked their favorite songs and just did covers of it. I'm gonna look into that for sure. Let's move next on our list though.
Yeah.
I think our number 11 is Please Please.
Yes.
Wow, we really put like all their early stuff just down.
And I'll get to that too when we get into some of their mid into later stuff. Please Please Mate, this is it. This is how we got introduced to the Beatles, or how the world got introduced to the Beatles. And this is a song. This was an album where I'm just gonna go their first song. I Saw Her Standing There, classic Beatles tune. Misery, I believe that's the cover. Once again, I apologize if I'm wrong.
No, that's a Lennon and McCartney.
Oh, see, so I think that's a fun song to cover that. To follow, I Saw Her Standing There. Cover, I know this is cover. Chains, I love. This is one of my all-time favorite Beatles covers. I really enjoy that song. Talk About Boys now. So then that one's next. Then Please Please, obviously, great song. Love Me Do. That was on Beatles 1. That's the opening track to that album. That cover, that greatest hits. And then probably another one of their most famous covers, if not their most famous recognizable cover, Twist and Shout. Phenomenal job with those vocals. And that's why this was, for me, like you said, it was both our 11. So towards the somewhat upper end of their earlier albums for me. And a great way to be introduced to the Beatles.
Yeah, for sure. It was, for me, it was really just the Please Please Me, is why I kind of put it. I don't even know how I have words for this. Like their earlier stuff, I don't know why I didn't put them higher up on the listings, because like, just I figured, they're okay. They're starting out at the bottom. Why not? Right? They're getting better.
Still trying to find their way.
But Please Please Me, yeah. I mean, I remember buying this at freaking Kmart in Watertown when I was like, this was my first CD I ever bought, which was Please Please Me, only because I just wanted to hear the title track. And like I've heard Love Me Do before, but like it didn't hit as hard as Please Please Me. And I think their producer at the time too was like, Love Me Do, it's your one single, it's great. Do you guys have anything else? It's like one of those studio moments where it's like, yeah, we have this one thing. We don't know if it's good or not, but like we have this one thing. But I think the main reason I put it on 11 though, because like it hits hard with I Saw Her Standing There.
Yeah.
And then like you have these, Misery's a great song, and so is Anna, but they're so slow.
Yeah.
And then you get into Chains, and then you get to Boys, and then it starts to pick up a little bit. You get to Please Please Me. We keep losing Benson, and he's back again. But yeah, like it starts to pick up, but then P.S. I Love You, Baby It's You, Do You Want to Know a Secret? Like then it just gets really, really slow again. Like it was just kind of, it was all over the place.
Yeah.
Enough. And again, it's their first album. They were trying to find a swing of things. Getting used to, they didn't know they were going to be the Beatles yet. And like, it was just, to me as a listener, like I want to hear the balance of like, I love concept albums, right? Like I love hearing the story of things, like kind of going through things and like how it's like from one to another. And this album just didn't really do that for me. Like it was really just like, all right, we're just going to throw a bunch of stuff together and see if we make it, which I think that's most debut albums are like anyways, right? But it's too slow. It was too slow for me at points.
And just one last note, something you said during our Get Back review, pretty much paraphrasing, but Ringo's one of the most underrated drummers ever, and he's such a huge piece of that band. Love Me Do, the drums in that, and once again, that's my first big introduction to the Beatles, and hearing the drums in that song, the deep, hits with the bass drum, and then just keeping the rhythm the whole time along with the harmonica. Love Me Do was just, I'm a little biased because that was on Beatles 1, what I grew up listening to right off the bat, but, and it just shows Ringo really kept that band, each song, you think of the best Beatles songs, that's held together by Ringo, as good as the other three are. Ringo's the rock of that band, you could say.
Yeah, I mean, even during as we were watching the Get Back documentaries, you could tell he was kind of like the backbone between them all. Where after George left, he was basically like, hey, "You guys need to go talk to George. Like, we have this thing, keep it going a little longer." Like, he just showed up and he did the work, and like that's what he wanted to do, and that showed a lot in being the drummer with the Beatles, right? Like,
from Liverpool.
Yeah, from Liverpool. Yeah.
What do we got next?
I don't remember, honestly. It's been a long
That's your cue to hit the next slide. Oh yeah, so this is gonna be fun to talk about. Let's start it off, Chris.
Yeah, I mean, I put this pretty low on my list. I had this at 12 originally. Not there's just a couple songs in there that we've heard before, like All You Need Is Love, and Yellow Submarine, that were on earlier albums. But I didn't appreciate a lot of the scoring for the movie than like the for in its entirety. I got distracted by the chat. I'm sorry. But
BLC, thanks for tuning in. Yeah, like one of their all-time greatest covers, and we'll be talking about this song a little bit more, especially definitely stay with us because we'll definitely be talking about Nowhere Man more, because that's without spoiling anything. I can't wait to talk about that song later.
I can't. Can you do Ian? Like honestly, like that was his purpose, right? Like he just wanted to spread, peace and love, and what doesn't make you happier than the Yellow Submarine, right? Like, but that was the thing. Like there's songs in here like I love, I appreciate. I mean, Hey Bulldog's probably my favorite songs off this album, only because David Grohl did a better job at it. And like I don't know, but I listened to this album again earlier this week, and I really loved like Pepperland. I love Sea of Holes. Like I was never a big fan of like big orchestra pieces, but like it was nice to listen to, and like it was nice to hear it in the backgrounds and stuff. Like it just this is another album I never. It was kind of with Beatles for Sale. I'm like, it's good. I like it. Like it's a Beatles album. I can't hate it. It's just it's not as jeering, and it's not as it was their experiment. It's like right before their like heavy experimental time, and but great movie soundtrack for sure. Like it was a great movie.
So for me, up till yesterday, I had Please Me ahead of this. What changed it for me was it came down. One factor was it was how much does the cover / flow of Please Me compare to all the soundtrack score aspect of Yellow Submarine, because I think it has an equal number of classic hits on each of those songs, each of those albums. But then re-listening to this again yesterday, obviously there's two songs that also are from other albums, but altogether, now I grew up kind of similar to what Ian said. Obviously, I didn't grow up when this came out, but I watched this at a young age. The first time I watched it, I think I was around 8 years old. And that movie, after listening to Beatles 1 for so long, and how I got introduced to some of these other songs, I remember renting this and watching it, and the animation at the time blew me away. And I remember All Together Now. I just remember listening to that for the first time and from watching that movie. So I always had, I always loved that song. You mentioned Hey Bulldog. Shout out to Colin Sullivan. That's kind of like that song's a running joke. I know he'll be watching on the rewind if he's not watching right now. But a song that is another, we one day maybe we'll do a all times or our favorite Beatles songs,
Mm-hmm.
but All Too Much, hearing that, really for the first time after, when I started doing the deep dives into these after Get Back, I believe this is a George song too, or this is a George song, and I something about this song is just the intro with the organ, piano, the harmonies, the lyrics, and where it fits in the movie too. If you factor that in, this is one of my all-time favorites Beatles songs. And another band that we both love, Green Day, and they're notorious for, I don't want to say stealing, ripping off, but playing, incorporating melodies from other songs into their songs. And I didn't realize until I heard this was like See the Light off of American Idiot or 21st Century. It's that da da da. It's like the same melody, but that just shows, maybe that's their little homage to the Beatles. They're, paying respect. But All Too Much, it's one of my all-time favorite Beatles songs. And then you even know, Yellow Submarine, we'll talk about, what album that came off of originally. But I was at the old Griffin School in Watertown, one of like the first like school concerts I was ever in. It was all sea themed, and Yellow Submarine was one of the songs that we were all dressed up in sea creatures. I was an octopus.
That's cool.
Funny, and little me not knowing at the time octopus connection to the Beatles. That's just hit me. But so that I knew this song at a very young age too, even before I saw the movie. And then you listen to, you got to almost have to be in the right mood to listen to the score part. But I thought it just showed how creative they are and how talented.
Yeah, you just gotta be really high to listen to this. Nah, I mean, high school me would have said that, but move on.
Yes.
Number 9, guys, on our list is Revolver. Hey, that's a great transition because Yellow Submarine is on this album.
With the Revolver, so this is when you ask people what their favorite or what the greatest Beatles album of all time is, this gets a lot of, number one spots, which, it's hard. This is in that tier where it gets kind of hard to rank them. For me, it's in that mid tier because for me, I put it at number, and we had it similar. I had it at 7. You had it at, I think. Did you have it?
I had it at 9. Yeah, I had it at 9.
But this is maybe not the first album where they really find who they are, but it definitely is almost like their. I think I'm taking this from another video I watched, but this is almost like their heavy metal album, if you will. They a lot of awesome guitar in here. Taxman, I always thought was a fine song. Not one of my super favorites. It's a George song. Eleanor Rigby. There's 2 Beatles songs I put on my I have on my Halloween playlist I listen to every year. Eleanor Rigby, because that song was on the number 1, and that song scared me as a kid. I remember just like what they're singing about. A lady has her face in a jar by the door and died in the church there. It was just a scary song listening at the time. I would always kind of cover my ears if I was listening to this going to bed as a kid, or if, just playing skip. But, you really appreciate the songwriting here on this one. And with the violins incorporated in it, that's one of my favorite songs from this one. Here, There, and Everywhere, just I think is a masterpiece, an underrated Beatles song.
Yeah.
The vocals, how the vocals flow and how the melodies flow, the harmony is just an incredible song. We talked about Yellow Submarine. Good Day, Sunshine, not one of my favorite. It's another George song. It's it's a once in a fine song. Another underrated Beatles song, Andrew Birkin Sing. I always love the guitar in that song. Dr. Robert's fine. Gotta Get You Into My Life. But this is. I wasn't the biggest fan of when the Beatles really went to their sitar stuff. I thought, the India stuff, I
Yeah.
just can't get into it. So like Tomorrow Never Knows. Wait, am I? That's
Yeah.
yeah.
That's when they started using a lot of the sitar and stuff.
And
Birds can sing. But I mean, like,
so
I put this in my number 9, and I really like this album too. But I see this one as more as they're like, you're seeing more of their musicianship, right? You're
yes,
seeing more of their technicality and things, and like this is where they really start to open the door to experimentation. Like, and to the people who think that Ringo is not a good drummer, like this album straight up has like a a lot of songs that are just
oh,
show his ability. I mean, like, I re-listened to this one before we started, like a couple hours before we started, getting together to talk about this. And I mean, she said has like the coolest freaking drum fills
yes,
that he does, where it's like mostly it's just tom fills and
Mhm.
it's the coolest freaking thing where, like, they have like the melodic melody of, she said da da
yes.
da 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 da
Oh, I
da,
love
and
the
you just
guitar.
hear
Oh, yeah,
and you just hear Ringo in the background going
yep.
and like he's just drumming around on that. And same thing for Gotta Get You Into My Life.
Yep.
Like, it's got
Yep.
such good drum fills, and this guy just is showing that he could keep up with the other three. Because
Yeah.
like then you get into the songs like Taxman, and you get in, which is like a lot of syncopated stuff with
Mhm.
a doom da doom da, right?
Yeah.
And your bird can sing with like that harmony guitar line that's
Oh,
going back and forth with George and Lennon. Like this is where Lennon really starts to shine more on like his lead guitar
good point.
stuff too, right?
Yep.
Like and then you're getting a lot of gold of like the Lennon McCartney
Mhm.
mixes here. Like this is a really well together put album. But I'm a sucker for melody,
Mhm.
right? Like I love me a really good melody, and the reason I put it lower on the list is because it didn't. The melodies were great, but they have, and I keep saying the same thing. Like a lot of their later stuff
Oh,
just
yeah.
is more resonating. It's more melodic,
Yep.
and it's not just like, hey, we got this rock band thing going on. They're gonna be like, no, we're actually artists, we're musicians. Like we are going to show you what we could actually do than just make some songs. Because I think this was like right in the end of their Beatlemania stuff too.
This was 66, August of 66.
Yeah, so this was like right at the end of their like Beatlemania stuff, right?
Yeah.
They they just got thrown into the big heavy bulletproof truck from Shea Stadium. This is right after that, before they went to India. And they were like, we're done touring for a while. Actually, no, this was when they
That
went.
was their, yeah.
Yeah,
They never toured again after that.
no, because they realized there was
Focused
too
on,
much.
yeah, all too
It
much.
was way too much.
Why don't we see what we got at number 8?
Number 8. I'm shocked we didn't make a number 9 joke while we were here. Number 9.
I did. You missed it. That's
Shit,
okay.
I'm sorry.
Alrighty.
Hard Day's
Hard Day's
Night.
Night. So this album, they still might have not found who they are, but this is their first one where the flow was good. A lot of songs, a lot of great originals. Obviously, the self-titled Hard Day's Night. Tell Me Why. Can't Buy Me Love. Um, it's, and I'm see, with me with these earlier albums, I still don't know which ones are covers off the top of my head. But you Can't Buy Me Love and Hard Day's Night, and once again, those are two of the top songs on the Beatles one CD. So those
Yeah.
songs always resonate with me. And once again, this was their first. Obviously, they got a movie out of this
Yeah,
album.
this was their first movie. Yeah.
So this is probably their first like big, these guys are for real. Let them cook album.
Yeah. Yeah, for real. I mean, like, Can't Buy Me Love alone sold like what 13 million something copies. Like it's the most like popular song that they had at the time. Like it sold quick. It sold quick, and Hard Day's Night is just like it's the classic like questionable song. Like how the heck did they make that opening chord?
I was just about to talk about that too.
You know, it's like in going to some theory talk here for real quick. Like it is like a variation of like a C major 7 chord, but they're adding I forget what because they talked about it a bit in oh my god, what documentary was it? It's one of the 500 documentaries that are out there by them. No, it was actually false. It was actually Rick Beato YouTube video that I watched that they talked about it, and I forget, but they said there's some weird residency that Paul did that added that like weird ominous like tone on top of that chord.
So, because you're much better with music theory than me, is it piano? Is it guitar? What the instrument did they use to get that opening chord from?
Guitar. It's all guitar. Yeah.
Yeah.
All guitars and bass. Yeah. Like I don't
Yeah.
think there was any piano in that song at all. But I love this album. I had it pretty high on my list.
You had it higher than me, I remember, if I remember correctly.
I did. I think I had it at. I can tell you right now because I have my list right next to me. I mean, I know I had it at 7.
This was my number 9.
That's your number 9. Yeah. I mean, like I remember first watching the movie before I listened to the album, and the only thing I wanted to do was to learn not only because my dad forced a harmonica on me at a young age, but I really wanted to learn how to play harmonica and like do and learn how to play I Should Have Known Better, because like that whole train scene when they're in the back playing blackjack or whatever card game that they were playing. And they had like, all the girls surrounding them and they're just singing this song and having a good time, and like just watching like Lennon, like literally all he had to do was like blow a few notes on the harmonica and like everybody was swooning over him. I'm like, that's what I want to be. But this is also just nostalgia for me. Like I loved this album. Like I there was never a time I never not sang Can't Buy Me Love. Also, You Can't Do That is such a great song.
Yeah.
Such a great song.
And this was one of their first, their early albums. Yeah, this was 64. This is one of their first albums. It was mostly original songs, if I'm not correct.
Yes.
Yeah. So this was that first, let's see what they can do, what they're working with their own, creative, and they did a really good job.
Yeah, they really did. I got nothing else to say about this album. I'm good to go. Let's move on to the next one.
Awesome.
Again, a great soundtrack. I had this really high on my list.
Yeah, this was my number 8, right on top of Hard Day's Night.
Yeah. I had this. I think this was like my number. This is my number 5 on my list. I love every single song on this album. I remember when I first got it. This was literally my video game album. Like every time I would go in my basement and put on a video game, like I put this on right away, and I spend the whole entire album just playing video games with this. But like it's got so many great songs. And again, if you don't think Ringo's a great drummer, like look what he did with Ticket to Ride in this album. Like I've just seen a face with the guys like doing the 3 guitar thing going on. And then you got your hits of Help and Yesterday. Like melodies were really starting to show here even more. And because like especially with Yesterday, like Paul's hit a home run with that song.
Scrambled Eggs.
Scrambled Eggs, yeah. Yeah.
Oh wow. Yeah, this album is once again talking about originals and how do you follow up Hard Day's Night. Not only did this also get a movie, ton of great originals, mostly originals. Um, uh, you got to hide your love away. Funny,
Yeah.
funny one from the movie, but it's just like I love that's just an acoustic guitar, a little bass
Yeah.
drum, and just kind of a relatable song. It's
Yeah.
kind of a heartbreak song, a heartbreaking song, a breakup song, and uh, Lennon just really feel a lot of it from Lennon with these vocals.
Yeah.
Um, what other ones? The Night Before. I love The Night Before. Another underrated song. They're talk about their harmonies and their vocals.
Yeah.
Um, You're Gonna Lose That Girl is a fun little slower song, but the melodies. See, once again, we talk about pacing. This song has
Yeah.
a good
Yeah.
flow. You got your
Yeah.
fast ones. You got a little. There's never a dull moment with this one, and absolutely to end on Yesterday. Actually, my bad. So correct me. The one cover is Dizzy Miss Lizzy, right?
No, I
Or
don't
is there
think
another
so. I
cover? I
think there's another
apologize.
one on
I
here. It was Act Naturally.
oh, geez, I'm overlooking that. I'll get to that in a bit, but like,
It's okay. It's a Ringo song, man. It's fine. It's okay.
there's a reason why I used the clip from Family Guy, this image for this video. But Yesterday, Dizzy Miss Lizzy is a nice, fun little rock song to end on. But just
Yeah.
if they ended it on Yesterday, oh, that's just like a good, obviously a slower song, but like what
Yeah.
Jazz King said, it still stands because once again it goes back to a relatable song, great songwriting, and it's simple, but it's just so powerful and so effective, and
Yeah.
resonates still.
Yeah, but I think they did that for a reason because like when I listen to this album and I get to Yesterday, like it's such a sad song, right? And like
Yeah.
it's so somber, it's so just dark, right? Like
Mhm.
I liked that they put Dizzy Miss Lizzy at the end because like it takes you out of it and
That's a good point.
it ends you on a high note. And just like, hey, you know what? Like that last one, really depressing, but you know what? We'll pick you back up because we're not all about that on this album.
That's a good point. I'm also biased to Yesterday. So I'd be remiss if I didn't mention this
Dude,
story
yeah.
quick. I don't know if I've shown you if you've seen it. There's a video on my Facebook from my junior year of college, and I had a great bunch of roommates with me. And one of our roommates, was just going through a breakup, and I met a lot of my good friends at college through music. I made friends with a ton of good musicians. So our friend Jack, pulled out his guitar and had the lyrics pulled up in front of him. And as a group, we sang this song together. And it was almost like a way we helped, our buddy Sam feel better. And just me growing up with the Beatles from such a young age to be 20 years later singing, this song with a bunch of great guys that I had
Yeah.
just met together. And that was such an awesome moment from one of my favorite moments from college. And so that's why yesterday's a little bit biased. I'm a little biased because that was such a good moment personally for me when we did
Yeah.
that. But to go to the Ringo cover, Act Naturally, I believe Hank Williams. If I'm redeeming myself with these covers, and I believe that's a Hank Williams song, um, and it's just the perfect song for Ringo to sing because it's like
Yeah.
it's his character.
Yeah.
It's a fun, catchy. It can get stuck in your head. Um, but that's also one of my favorite Beatles covers.
Yeah.
Anything else to say about Help?
Only the fact that they only wrote Help because they actually felt trapped in their career.
Good point. Yep.
That's about it. Lennon was like, "Get me out of here. I'm tired of this."
I knew Buck Owens, yes, another classic. I think that is right.
Mm.
Listen to
Well,
Buck Owens.
yeah.
What do we got next, Chris?
About to
That's
remember Magical Mystery Tour. Yeah.
This will be fun
Oh
to talk
God,
about.
yeah. This is a good one. I had this pretty. Did I have this high on my list?
I
I
had
think
it
I had it
really
like
high.
I had it right at this number. I had it right at 6. This was a tough one for me because I didn't know where to put it because I love this album. It's weird, it's corny, it's got just it's just got great vibes, right? Like it's starting off with a really hard song, Magical Mystery Tour. This to me, this is like their second concept album, right? Like Sergeant Pepper was supposedly like the first of it all, right? And like this was literally right after. So they probably were just like
In the
riding
same
that
year,
train.
right?
Yeah.
This was
They were just
July '67.
riding that train. But the songs on this are so good. I will never not put on Strawberry Fields. That's one of my favorite Beatles songs. Not because I love the scene in Across the Universe with this song.
Yeah.
Which was, fun fact, that was my real introduction to the Beatles, was Across the Universe. Probably one of my favorite movies of all time. Songs are fantastic, and like the rewrites of them all. Hell, I enjoyed Bono's version of "I'm the Walrus."
Epic.
Right?
If
Like,
you haven't watched that, look that up on YouTube after you watch this.
yeah,
See,
yeah,
that'd be a fun. Chris and I both did theater, and like, not that I had the vocal chops of Lennon or Bono, but that would have been a fun song to be like a scene stealer, showstopper,
yeah,
show up and like make an impact in the middle of the show.
yeah.
Bono just takes that song, creates the character, because he's playing. Who's he playing? Dr. Roberts, or who's he playing in the movie?
He was playing because they're going to see Dr. Roberts. Who did he play?
I'll look that up while you continue to talk about
Because
it.
it was a Beatles reference. So, like it was one of those like things they did in the film. I can't remember.
Yeah.
Like everything was referenced to the Beatles in
Yeah.
that film. But I mean, like the kicker for me was like with this song was "All You Need Is Love," not because of like the orchestra that's along with it. Because I love when they do that. I love when they play like the orchestra with the band. But like they added. I'm a sucker for when they add songs on top of other songs.
He was Dr. Robert.
He was Dr. Robert. So
I was right.
Who are they going to go see?
Mr. Kite.
Mr. Kite? No. Mr. Kite was
Eric Idle singing the song.
Yeah, but they didn't travel to see him. They were traveling to see somebody else.
Watch Across the Universe, everyone.
Please, and help our Forgetful Brains. I'm actually I think it's on Max. I'm gonna watch it later. I don't have to go anywhere important tomorrow besides work. But like I'm a sucker. I am a sucker. It's probably because I grew up in the early 2000s. And they probably took it from them. I'm a sucker for when they overlap songs, right? So like,
oh yeah,
I love when they do like one person singing a line and someone singing another line. It's kind of crossing over.
Yeah,
I love this song because at the end of when they're doing like just the chorus at the end, all you need is love. In the background, you hear Paul just going, "She loves you, yeah." And I'm like, I'm a sucker for that. I'm a sucker for it.
It's an Easter egg.
It is,
and we'll get to they do that again later in a song.
Yeah,
but that's funny you bring that up because I always like both songs are on one, and She Loves You. That's earlier on, so All You Need Is Love is towards the end. And as a young listener, I'm like, no way, he just incorporated that. So I'm like 8 years old listening, like, no way, they just sang a song that was already heard earlier. So I agree. That's what I'm happy you brought that up because I remember when I first heard them, that like blew my mind that they did that.
Yeah, there's nothing on this album that I don't dislike.
This was my 2 as of today, and then it goes just back to how hard it is to rank their later albums because you're really it's the Jim Carrey from Pet Detective 2. It's just like how is it possible? And I'll try to tell myself when we get to the other albums why I put those ahead of this. But it's because when you look at this on paper, Fool on the Hill, honestly, the first time I heard it was the beginning of Dinner for Schmucks.
Nice.
Then
you schmuck.
Flying's a fun little slower song. Blue Jay Way, not one of my favorites. Your Mother Should Know, not one of my favorites. Then you got, we talked about I Am the Walrus, and just if you watch the music video, and just it's just one of those songs. When I heard that, because I also growing up, if I wasn't listening to CDs to help me go to sleep, I'd just put the old 102.9 here in Connecticut. They used to be the oldie station, and they would throw Beatles songs in. And once again, at that time, my only knowledge of Beatles was the One album. So when you hear songs like, I Am the Walrus, I'm like, wait, this is the Beatles? I've, grown years listening to, Beatles One. And I'm like, there's more songs from them. And so I Am the Walrus, I remember just being blown away the first time I heard that and how different it was. Song that is on Beatles One, Hello Goodbye. It's just, you talk about the dueling melodies and the harmonies and the piano. It's just, there's an awesome Bugs Bunny Daffy Duck cover of this. That's just, and then the end of it, going back to the hey hi, hey hello, hi. It's just like that. Always loved Hello Goodbye. The song. So another song that I heard it for the first time off of when I listened to the oldie station was Strawberry Fields Forever. You talked about it, and just when I heard that, and I'm the Walrus first, I'm like, these songs are so different but so unique and awesome. Penny Lane, another great song. And then you talk about the instruments they incorporated that. An underrated Beatles song. I'm trying to point out songs that they're underrated from them. Baby You're a Rich Man. When I first heard that for the first time, I remember I really hadn't heard that song till when I did my deep dive after Get Out or Get Back, and I love the flow of that song, so different. And this Magical Mystery Tour, there's more songs I love on this than hate, and that's why I think one reason why it was
really high up there on your list.
Anything else you want to mention about it? I love this
album. There's so many little things in this album that I really, really enjoy. And there's some things I learned recently about this album that I still can't get over. With the big one being from Strawberry Fields. For years, I always thought that the intro with the little trumpet thing, the dun dun dun, or we think it's flutes or whatever it is. It's not actually flutes. It's not trumpets. They were messing with a synthesizer.
They did that a lot, right? For certain songs.
And I had no idea that was part of that song, at all. And I remember watching a Instagram reel that one of our family friends, Chris Angel, sent me a couple months back of Paul explaining what they did for that, and he's like, "Oh yeah," because they're just going through their rigs in the studio, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I remember playing this. This is actually what we used on Strawberry Fields. No trumpets. It was just this little tiny keyboard synthesizer thing, and I was just messing with the knobs, and I got this sound. I haven't touched the settings since. I think it should still be." And he starts playing it. I'm like, "No shit, that's so fucking cool." Sorry for swearing. I'm like, that's so cool. The fact that he was just no idea, just turning some knobs, trying to find some sounds, here's some frequencies on this, and then it made that. Sorry, go.
I was going to say, another thing about Strawberry Fields, one of my favorite moments from the Get Back was I forgot the context, and it might have just been during their downtime. That's a John song, Strawberry Field. John vocally singing that song. There's the part in Get Back where Paul's just chilling and starts singing Strawberry Fields.
Yeah.
So it's cool to hear Paul singing the lead for that song, and it might have just been him singing without any instruments, or he might have been. I think he was on piano, but it was just cool to bring in tying Get Back into this. I thought that was really cool to hear. I'm a sucker for hearing the person who's not singing lead, almost like a cover, if you will. So that was but Magical Mystery Tour. This is going forward in their release, album releases, once again, just some of the best music ever, and just ranking them is just so hard.
And speaking of covers, if you guys want to listen to a really good Beatles cover that's off of this album, it was when Paul got indicted by was it in 2013 for the
Kennedy Awards?
Was it the Kennedy Awards? was one of the big music awards. He played at the White House for President
Is that the Kennedy?
Obama.
I forget. Yeah.
I forget what the award was, but Elvis Costello does a great version of Penny Lane.
Yes.
And he has a really talented man from the Marine Corps band playing the piccolo solo. And the guy played like it sounded like it was the recording. Like that's how good this guy was. Like if you want to hear a really great cover, look up Elvis Costello's Penny Lane and do it live. Do the live version. Like nothing else does its justice. And it was really, really good. And that's all I have left to say about this this album. Because now we're getting into our top 5. And like Benson said earlier on, like this was really, really hard to pick like our at least from my top 5. Like I had one that I knew was my number 1. Like, but anything else is after that was really, really tough. So go easy on us if you don't like it. But going at number 5 for our general our agreement, number 5 was the White Album. Yeah, this was tough because for me, I had it lower. I did have this lower.
Sorry.
I'm sorry, sir. Did you not like what I said and you just left the chat for a hot second?
Partly, I had the cool. I needed a moment.
That's fair. This was a long album. This was a very long album. And there's a lot of great songs on this. I mean, besides Strawberry Fields, Dear Prudence is another great song, and it's probably my number, like at least my number 1 Beatles song. But this is where I had a real introduction to the Beatles when I was in 4th grade, and we did our music teacher was like, she wanted to do a recording of like the whole entire school singing songs from the curriculum this year. Had no idea what I was singing. I just knew there was a song that my class got to sing because it was the best song of that year because the words were really funny. Can you guess what song that might be, Benson?
Oobla Dee Oobla Da?
Hell yes, it was. So no idea, like 6-7-year-old me was being introduced at a very young age to the Beatles and not realizing it. So I agreed with Benson putting this a little bit higher on the list, and just had how it ranked out. And it gave me that nostalgia again of like this album just has a lot of great songs. There's a lot of great melodies, a lot of great guitar parts. I mean, going from Dear Prudence to While My Guitar Gently Weeps. I'm a sucker for Rocky Raccoon, which I don't think anyone would not be, right? But for me, the kicker for this album was Julia. The song for his mom that Lennon wrote. And between all the acoustic songs that were on this one, that one was probably the best for me. Because I just loved, even especially now, like when, since my dad passed, like I can relate to that song even more now. And is my girlfriend home? Hello? Hi. I start hearing voices.
Did you not see me put my...
I did not. I'm sorry.
Put it down and walk back.
Sorry.
Are you live?
But yeah, I think there was nothing else in this album that I can't hate. I mean, for a long time, loved Piggies, really did. Ugh. Not so much now because I'm like, oh, I'm not a kid anymore. I'm not a child. But that's all I gotta say about this album.
And I'm happy because there's a lot of stuff you didn't mention that I get to. I mentioned how Magical Mystery Tour is my number 2. This just is what surpassed it and got up to 2. And why it wasn't too. You brought it up. It is a long album, and I think when I was doing my initial deep dive, listening to them from start to finish each album, I think that's what weighed it down. But now, giving it the second listen through these last couple days, you just look at the songs on this album. You mentioned some, and funny enough, it starts out with a pop with "Back in the USSR." Not one of my favorite songs, but it's a good, fast moving rock and roll song.
Definitely outdated now.
Yes. You mentioned Dare Prunes. I mentioned, songs where they throw Easter eggs in. Glass Onion, you get, The Walrus was Paul. And then they mentioned Lady Madonna. They mentioned, so that's like, when I heard that song, and that was like after, our first time I really heard it was after Get Back. And it's like, this is really kind of ahead of their time, referencing a bunch of, what other band even does that,
Yeah.
Bon Jovi mentions, Tommy and Gina in It's My Life. Sorry that jumped there. But so, and then when Glass Onion, the movie, was coming out, obviously not a Beatles related movie, but they took the name for the second mystery. I can't think of what franchise
Knives
is that.
Out.
Knives Out. I'm like, if they don't play this song at any point, it's a waste and a bad movie.
Yeah.
So it's a perfect. I like where they placed it right as the credits start.
Yeah.
You mentioned New Believer, Wild Honey Pie. I see. I'm a sucker for the continuing story of Bungalow Bill. I think that's just a fun acoustic song. You mentioned acoustic songs on here.
I do love that one too. Don't get me wrong, I really do. But I mean, like,
just going through some other song comments. Yeah.
Which song did Ringo do lead on?
Oh, did he Bungalow Bill?
Is that Bungalow Bill? Did he?
What other songs did I mention? Was it?
I don't know.
Dad, follow that up in the chat. Which song you're talking about? Ringo did the lead on. But yeah, I'm a sucker for that song. While my guitar gently weeps. Oh yeah, you mentioned that. My bad. My apologies. You did say that before. I knew that. I'm overthinking. While my guitar gently weeps, obviously, it's known for that. Dun da dun da dun da dun, like that. So, Happiness and Warm Gun, that's a pretty powerful song.
Yeah.
I'm so tired. I can relate to that song. Just working, 5 days a week. You didn't mention Blackbird. Oh, you talk about the acoustic songs on this record. Blackbird, Paul just showing his vocal presence, songwriting. It's a beautiful song, and just being a Deadhead too. And that's a song that Dave covered. I've seen Bob Weir, his side project Drat Dog. I've seen them cover it. That's how I first got introduced to the song. Don't Pass Me By. Why Don't We Do in the Road? But the big song, my favorite Beatles song, so it's my dad's favorite, Revolution. Just you talk rock and roll. You talk about double guitar harmonies. You got the one take of John chewing bubble gum while singing. Just that song is just a powerful, powerful song. Like you think rock and roll, the genre. The Beatles not only my favorite rock band. When I think of rock songs, I think that just from the music alone in that song, and then you go in the harmonies. That's the music video is great with the three of them, singing, standing, playing it. It's just there's so much about that song that I like, and it's then you hear all the acoustic takes. That's one song where I love finding bootleg versions of acoustics, and just that's just you got Helter Skelter, Cry Baby Cry. I think just the power, and I'm a sucker for acoustic, as are you. So I think this song, even though it's this album, even though it's long, it does balance the acoustic with the just rock songs very well. And once again, despite it being long, I listened to it recently. I think the flow does work with this album.
Yeah, I know it definitely does. It definitely does. Like I'm happy where we put this on the list. The one thing I want to say, because I didn't want to interrupt you, going back to Blackbird, that he got inspired by, I think he said it was Mozart or was it Chopin for the guitar part of that, because he would say that him and John, or is it George? I think it was George. they would no, it was John. They would futz around with this one classical piece, and they kind of did that with a lot of classical stuff, just like try to learn things on guitar. And I really forget the guys. Tell me what song this is, so and the artist, because I am tired and I cannot think of it right now.
I'm so
That goes,
tired.
yeah, so tired. No, it's so they were playing da 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 da, like what is that? It's Mozart. It's Mozart. I know it's Mozart. I can't think of the song though. Tenacious D covers it. It's Classico. But like he was saying how he loved that hand motion of bum 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 bum, and with that, and then thinking of a higher melody on the guitar, something that they could do like on the higher strings, magically became Blackbird.
Interesting. I never
yeah.
knew that.
Yeah.
I should clarify. I love. I talked about how much I love Revolution. Revolution number 1, because probably one of my least favorite songs on this album is Revolution number 9. I know we were joking about that.
Number 9.
Whenever there's a countdown or anything involving counting in numbers, I won't not say number 9 like that.
Yeah.
But kind of I don't know if there's any backstory to why it's Revolution number 1 and Revolution 9. Enlighten me, chat, or you, Chris. But yeah,
again, questions I never want to find answers for.
My favorite song and then my probably least favorite song on the album share the name, kind of.
Yeah, that's fair.
Cool. So move on to this very, very awesome final four, Fab Four.
All right, and our number 4, guys, was Abbey Road. Probably a hot take here. Definitely known as probably the best Beatles record of all time, right?
Iconic
like
cover.
Got literally a great compilation of songs from Come Together to The End. Like this was a really hard decision. But I these last 3 albums, I really don't have much to say. Like I really don't, because like especially with Abbey Road, it kind of speaks for itself. Like sure, I would have put it at maybe number 3. Or maybe number 2. But the ones you're going to see coming up, like we'll explain a little more in detail on like why we had to put this at number 4. I mean, but like I love all their works, guys. I can't explain this enough. I love all their works. Like it's nice where they were like, it had a cool, like it's an A side and there's a B side. Like in the A side, you had this like, it's like, yep, these are some core songs that, this is like just a normal album. Great. And then you get to the B side, where it's like, no, this is actually now a complimentary album. This is a concept album. And like where every song goes into, we're trying to tell a story from this point on now down. Of like basically like it starts at a life and it goes down to an end, and like melodically, lyrically, everything about this is just great. And I love a lot of Lennon's vocal tones and a lot of these songs. I love a lot of guitar licks that Harrison done. The biggest thing on why I love this album is McCartney's work. Like his bass, he always has been a melodic feature in a lot of their songs, but like he kind of threw a lot of funk patterns to this, and it's like a lot more of like sustained tones, where it's like, yeah, I'm doing like, I really wish I could grab my bass right now and like just do this one thing, but probably maybe not. I'm doing it. I don't care.
Do it.
You probably won't even hear it. Like, especially like with like Come Together, like, he's not doing anything crazy. Like, how do I show this more on screen? I can't do cameras. This is why I don't do film. How's he do it? Yeah. So he's like, really keeping this, like, it's just a bluesy funk thing, It's just that I can't explain rather than just like playing it, like, you know, because you have like the guitar going with the blues, the thing, right? They're just keeping it straight, like they're just chugging on Ace, dun 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 dun. While you hear Lennon and McCartney in the background just doing this like sustained melodic like thing where he's like, oh, I'm up already. Yeah. It's just like these solid notes, just. And he adds like little things like that in there. Like he did that a lot of the songs on this album, and between that and the band's like togetherness in it and how they were just like
Come
we're making it, yeah, their come togetherness. It was so hard to put it forward.
So yeah,
sorry for the tangent.
No, and thank you for that's awesome breaking it down with the bass. For me, I had it at 6 because it's funny because it's such a well-made album, but I think another thing I factored in is like how many songs are like in my top, and not that these aren't good songs, but it's just like if I was to put together my top 10 Beatles songs.
Yeah,
this is very tough. Like it was for you, but I don't know how many of these would be in it. I'd have to go listen to I'd have to do another deep dive in all the albums.
Yeah. I'm sorry. You tell me you will not willingly turn on "She Came In Through a Bathroom Window."
I was debating when I was going to ask you this towards the beginning of when we talked about this album or towards the end. I think I'll wait till the end because I do kind of want to break down some of the other songs. And it does kind of tie into the fact that in the Get Back documentary, I might as well do it now. So this album and was being recorded kind of at the same time as
like the songs
Let It Be, right?
These songs were kind of being developed through that time. Let It Be was before
yes.
before Abbey Road. I don't know the reasonings why it came out later. It could have just been, just how a live recording process went differently between a studio process, right? Of like getting tracks out. But yeah, they were writing, and you saw it too in the documentary. They were writing songs. Like you'd hear them play like Maxwell Silver Hammer. You heard
that was cool. That's one of the coolest parts of that documentary.
Yeah.
Just with showing the actually hitting the silver hammer and stuff, and that was really cool. And then my favorite song off this album, I'm gonna say it might be Octopus's Garden.
I'm gonna keep quiet. It's okay.
That is my favorite ocean animal.
It's a great song.
I know that Ringo. It's obviously his vocals. He's never gonna win. He's never gonna win best vocalist. But what really does it, and it was cool seeing how George always him and Ringo's relationship was really cool to see in that documentary.
Yeah.
When they were doing this song, just putting this song together, and I'm sorry, George's guitar is awesome. The solo in Garden is so good, and it's like this solo isn't a song about an octopus. It's so I do love this song. Going back, we mentioned it was cool. Maxwell Silverhammer. First time I really ever heard that song was through that documentary, and cool seeing how they came to that. Me and Mr. Mustard Pout, that whole the whole B side is awesome. Something I believe I've been off on a lot of my stats tonight, if you will. I believe Frank Sinatra said Something is his favorite love song or the greatest love song ever written. I believe he said that about Something.
I mean, I wouldn't doubt it. I mean, it's a really great love song, and probably Harrison's best work.
Yeah. And then you mentioned Paul on this album with his bass, but like one of Paul's best vocal, "Oh Darling."
Oh yeah, do you know the story behind that vocal take, right?
Please enlighten us.
Yeah, so he couldn't get it right in the studio, because he wanted to get it like, and I could be wrong, right? This is just the many Beatles rumors that you've probably heard throughout the years. Like the same reason on the conspiracy theory of why they think Paul is dead.
I wasn't really dead.
But yeah, so he couldn't get the take right. He wanted it to sound raspier. So he actually went to the studio early in the morning and just drank a shit ton of coffee, smoked a couple cigarettes, and then he just did the take. So like he got that raspiness just by being overtired and
Never knew that.
Yeah.
That's
He's like,
really
it doesn't.
cool. I never knew that.
It's like doesn't sound right. I'll be here 3 a.m. with a pack of cigarettes and coffee.
I Want You So Bad, one of their best blues songs.
Yeah.
Just the talk about was Paul's bass and this. John really gets into the bluesy. You feel that's another song. You feel the emotion in that.
Also, like a great take of using a dominant 7th chord, and not just any dominant 7th chord, using a sharp 9,
Please,
which is like an upper extension. Like you could tell they're like, how can we make this like break out of the like show the tension of being drafted, going off to war, right? And like, you know, having the good old American way after you get, you know, they have that lick, right? Right. And then like you're getting into like the next part and like, yeah, it's that one chord. It's like how do we get out of this melodic thing and just kind of show that tension? And they're like, oh, let's just stagnate and kind of like just, you know, and just hit that dominant 7 sharp 9. So where it's like, then the bass do doop 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 boom. She's so bummed. Whatever, back to that D minor, but they these guys are good for a reason.
And then I guess, you know, we mentioned George House Something, one of his best songs.
Yeah.
Here Comes the Sun, a fun, you know, uplifting song. Here Comes the Sun.
Yeah, but great acoustic, man.
Yep.
Great acoustic song. Probably another one of my favorite acoustic songs by them. I got nothing else to say about this album, man. Like, we're getting into the waters of like everything is just good. I have nothing bad to say. I keep saying how much I love these works, and I'm like, I don't want to keep having a conversation of the same thing until like 4 o'clock in the morning.
Now the song you know when you were in the Beatles, when Paul was in the Beatles, he said, "The love you take is equal or greater to the love you make." Is that true? Well, in my experience, I do think it's sorry. I'm referencing the Chris Farley. Awesome. If you haven't seen it, Chris Farley, Paul McCartney interview.
Oh my god.
I wasn't really dead.
Are we ready to move on?
Yes. Before I just quote that whole skit.
Okay. Our number 3, Sgt. Pepper Lonely Hearts Club Band. I'll be even more honest. With my introduction to the Beatles. If I give anybody credit, really give anybody credit of introducing me more into the Beatles, it'd be my grandpa on my dad's side, because he knew that I loved Across the Universe. Like we actually, when my grandma and was my sister there with? No, she wasn't there with us. But the 3 of us went to the mall. And like his grandma had to go find something specific somewhere. And grandpa and I were just like walking the mall. And we went to, I think it was like FYE or something. And I told him like, I need to find this album. I just want to listen to this soundtrack. It's great. It's really good. Like, I don't know who these people are, but these are great. So he picked up the Across the Universe album. And he knew I loved it. I never stopped playing it. Never stopped singing to it. But like one of my favorite memories was just coming home from school one day. I had to be about 10, 12. and Grandpa came over for a surprise visit, just to come say hi and whatever. He did that once in a while, and I see him come through the door, and he's got this tan envelope in his hand. And we walk upstairs like, hey, Grandpa, what are you doing here? He's like, oh, I have something for Chris. He's like, I know you were interested in, listening to that album from across the universe. He's like, but why don't you take a listen to this? And he gave me my very first Beatles record, which was Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. He was like, this is known as their best one, so take a listen to it. And like to this, I wanted to put this one originally at number one, but there was another album that took that place. But this one introduced me to the Beatles. This one got me into loving them. Like this is what introduced me and gave me the love for a concept album. Because every song on here I just love. Hands down, though, my favorite Beatles song, and this is legit, my favorite Beatles song of all time is A Day in a Life. Only because, like, it's a great story. It's got great guitar parts. I love the acoustic progression that's in this song. The melody is fantastic, and man, their use of the orchestra for that build up is just amazing. Also, they look cool in their suits. They look great in their marching gear.
It's funny. So you mentioned that song, and this is because I listened to like their last five albums, on my way home from work, as I was all day. But yeah. I was almost, home, and I was at a stop sign, and I don't know why I never noticed it. There's an ending to this song. After it finishes, it's like silent. And so then I'm thinking, it's the end of the album, whatever. And I'm at the stop sign, and then I just heard like gibberish and noise at the end. I'm like, what? It scared the crap out of me.
Yeah.
Like, because it was, I was doing one on the road, and so I'm like, what the heck? I don't know why. I've never heard that last 10 seconds of this song, but I was like, what the hell?
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm looking at my phone, because I was stopped, and I was like, oh, the song's still. I don't know how. Maybe I just,
never listened that far and like always skipped it or something.
I was like, what? I legit like jumped, in the car. I was like, Christ.
Yeah.
What's on the cover? Movie album by Bee Gees and Peter Frampton.
Yeah.
That's right.
The movie was interesting. I didn't hate it. I watched it once. It was in my high school days of like when I was watching some weird shit. I was probably high and just didn't pay full attention to it. But like there was I remember Frampton very well on this, and I loved when he came out With a Little Help from My Friends in the beginning, and like that vibe of his appearance just straight throughout the film was great. The cover, seeing a lot of their past life in it, you're seeing all these famous celebrities at the time. It's are you trying to expand the slide? I think that's as big as there you go. That's a classic. That's a classic cover. Like. Aerosmith's cover of "Come Together." That was that's just. You got no words for that. It's Aerosmith playing the Beatles. Like, what more do you want?
The best. I thought they nailed the best use of their cover was. There's a time, when the Justice League movie was first coming out, when Whedon took over, and we saw what that movie turned out to be. But one of the coolest trailers was using the Aerosmith version of that song, with incorporating the trailer. So I loved the cover, and it was used perfectly in that trailer.
Yeah.
So this was like, once again, this one kept sliding down, up and down. Obviously within the top 5 for me, because it's just like another one. It's just like there's just so many great songs. It's unfortunately, and this isn't a diss on Sgt. Pepper's with a little help from my friends, but that's growing up listening to classic rock radio, overplayed, and it's just like I kind of got annoyed at the song, those 2 songs at a point, and that's no discredit to them. It's just the radio plays what they want you to hear. They tell me it's cool, but I just don't believe it. But then another song that the oldie station would play from time to time was "Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds." That was another song. I was like, wow, that's the Beatles. Like, I've never heard this song. Once again, only listening to the one album. So that song always just, and it's just that song. Like, I'm not even trying to relate it to the whole, the drug aspect. Like, that song takes you to a place. Like, the imagery, the songwriting, whether they're high on LSD or not, it's just like.
Well, their excuse was that they got a picture from John's son Julian saying that he drew a picture of this girl in the sky, and he's like, he asked his son, "What is that?" He's like, "Oh, it's Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds." Sure it was, John. Sure it was.
All that aside, it's just like you talk about show don't tell when you're writing and stuff, and just like in creating imagery, just like you picture all those images in your head. Like, what I think that's not easy to do with a song. You kind of don't really thinking about what the lyrics are and what it creates, and like that song, creates just a fun mental picture. And I'm sure there's been various people have drawn stuff out of this. So. That's might be one of my, if not my favorite song on this album. Getting Better All the Time's a fun. Their melodies are great. Fixing a Hole. Another song did they mention another song at the end of that, or is that song mentioned in Glass Onion? Either way, it's a fun little Beatles song. She's Leaving Home. I like The Benefit of Mr. Kite. It's just another fun, just out there song. Yeah. Just once again, it creates that imagery in your mind, and it beat me to it. Sgt. Pepper's inspired Wilson, and or is it the other way? I know one inspired the other. I think Pepper's inspired Pet Sounds, but I think you're right. I could be wrong though. But 2 of the greatest albums of all time. If you've ever listened to Pet Sounds, or even if you've watched I can't remember the name. It's one of what Beach Boys, but the movie about Brian Wilson and like Paul Dano did a phenomenal. We're going to the Beach Boys quick, but they show this scene where he's doing they're working on Pet Sounds is phenomenal. I didn't want to correct you, but I part of me thought so. Pet Sounds inspired Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts. That is right. That inspired arguably, the Beatles' best album, one of their best albums, if not their best. That's just the genius of Brian Wilson, and inspiring the genius of Paul, John, George, and Ringo. So it's
I just love this album, just mostly because it was also like their triumphant return back into
good point.
The fan base, right? Because like before this, they were basically being boycotted, right? Because of Lennon's.
The devil, we're bigger than Jesus.
Yep. And like, it was kind of they weren't selling anymore. They were their records were being burnt in piles by crazed up fans. And I just love that there was like they put themselves under the title of Sgt. Pepper, and they're just basically like, middle finger to you guys. We're still going to write songs and hope you listen to it, and you're still going to buy this anyways. And like I just admire that. It's like, that's so rock and roll, right? They're like, basically, fuck you, we'll just do this.
They did use another Within You, Without You, another sitar song I'm not too crazy about. When I'm 64 is a fun song, and it's just I'll never, I've referenced the Dewey Cox Beatles scene where it's like, I hope your songs will still mean shit when I'm 64. It's and then those next files.
Did you know that he wrote that when he was a kid?
I did not.
Yeah, Paul wrote that when he was younger.
And that goes into talk about just in a song melodic rhythm, just lovely Rita.
Oh yeah.
Like in all seriousness, just how that song flows.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
Talk about a great song about a meter maid girl.
Exactly.
I mean, like at the time, like you would think, like why would I be getting turned on by this? Like, right? Like, oh yeah, that meter maid is it's ringing a bell.
And then I had Good Morning as an alarm clock in college.
I mean, yeah.
And I love John's like I love John's vocals on that too. One of my favorite John vocal songs.
Nothing to do to save his life. Call his wife and even the drums in that too.
Oh yeah.
Right, like some of those hits that Ringo does, especially like after in the verses where they're doing the da 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 da, then he goes bah bah.
Yep. Nothing you can do.
Yeah.
Just how those melodies just roll off the tongue is just. Anything else you'd like to add? You know, this is another one that's arguably, if you told me this is the Beatles' greatest album, I'm like, okay, you're right. You know.
Yeah, I think we should scrap the list. It's just this one. But no, I got nothing else. I think we should start reeling in our last two here. So if you ready to talk about the last two?
I am, and I'll let you lead off. Wait, I forgot what our match list was, but show the next one.
Okay, well, this is your favorite, so.
Okay, perfect. So, yes, I'll lead off with this one. Let It Be is great. This is my number one. Along with Beatles 1, you know, back when I was in high school, still not knowing the whole Beatles discography, you know, exactly. This was a Christmas gift. Not Let It Be, but Let It Be Naked. So obviously, you know, there's some songs off here that are on Beatles one I was familiar with, but this was another introduction to a good handful of Beatles songs I'd never heard before. And what really, you know, solidified, I think, this as my number one was watching Get Back, and just obviously we've mentioned how Abbey Road and these songs were kind of being written and recorded at the same time, but just seeing these songs going through the process, you know, the whole story, like there's a whole story outside of this album while this album was being recorded. And it's just, I think, this just shows the greatness of all four, especially John, especially Paul. And you talk about flow, there's just this song just starts and never stops or lets up.
Yeah.
Even Let It Be, slower song, but such a beautiful song. And it's another personal song to me because 8th grade graduation, St. Mary Magdalene, a Catholic middle school, you know, they're asking us, what is our, you know, song going to be, you know, because every year the graduating class would sing a song, usually be some, you know, religiously gospel-y song. Well, nothing, you know, nothing against, you know, it's just like, we're just thinking we're going to be singing this boring song our principal picked. But one of my buddies, you know, Brian Baker, just out of nowhere was just like, why don't we do Let It Be? And they mentioned, you know, there's Mother Mary in it, you know, that's about, you know, Paul's Mother Mary. Yeah. But, you know, it got approved by our teacher and the principal. And not only did we get to sing a Beatles song, you know, as our so long to middle school, but me, Brian, and my good friend Sam actually got to play guitar. So
that's cool.
Before I really sang, so I got out of singing and I got to play guitar. So I've always, I knew the song from Beatles 1. It's just like, you talk about, you know, the piano is, you know, maybe their best piano song, driven song, but then you have, is it George or John's solo? I apologize, but the solo in this song,
that's just, George. Yeah, it's Harrison.
Just rocks.
Yeah. Also, depending on the take you're listening to, right? Because like the record version of it is vastly different than the single version they put out. They're, especially with George's solo, it's got more of a flange. It's got more reverb on it, and it sounds more like almost ethereal than what they have on here, which is kind of like, you know, it's the same thing, but it sounds more straightforward. It sounds more rocky. While like on the single version, sounds more gospel-y in tone. I will argue that that's not their best piano song on this album. I would think A Long and Winding Road
Okay.
is their best on this one.
Fair, touche. And once again, that's not a fast song, but I think it doesn't need to be. And this
I mean,
it's
like
a powerful song.
For me, like this is a great just like ballad album,
Yes.
right? Like there's so many slow songs on here that just work so well because they don't feel slow.
That's what
they feel well.
Muster, yes.
Yeah, they feel well paced. They feel uplifting. They feel spiritual in a way, right? Like, I mean, the more I listen to this and like I see more things coming out from this era, like it's a heavy album and it's got a lot of heart and it's got a lot of spirit into this. Like it's just so good. And like going to Let It Be, like one of my favorite McCartney moments was something very recently actually. Where it was no spoiler. Yeah. Well, now it's a spoiler. But one of my favorite McCartney moments was when he was releasing his, I think it was his third album. This was before COVID. And he was, doing all the late night interviews. And he did one with James Gordon. And you could tell how much Let It Be resonated with, especially with James, because he was talking about how, that's his favorite song. He loved how, his dad would put it on for him every time they sing it together, reminding him of his grandpa and things like that. And like he said, like, he's like, man, I wish my dad was around to like, see like, I'm here with you talking about this. He's like, I wish he just knew, and like without missing a beat.
Oh, Paul.
Right, like without missing a beat, and like Paul's demeanor just changed for a second from like they were just giggling and laughing about the song,
and then they go into
and then he's like just in a single moment he just says, "Oh, he does.
Yeah,
he knows.
Love or hate James Corden, like the carpool karaoke, but that one alone, that moment alone, like how do you not, if you're a Beatles fan or just a good person, how does that not like warm your heart? Just like that's biased, but that's my favorite carpool karaoke.
No, it's mine too, man. Like,
and it's just like you said, they're singing aloud their big popular songs. They go into the house where some of the songs were written and where they record, rehearse. Then you go to that moment, and it's just like so heartwarming and just like just shows you how good of a dude Paul is. But yeah, it's.
I mean, we talked about this album a lot when we were doing the Get Back documentary.
Oh yeah.
I mean, the cool fact that Get Back was originally supposed to be a protest song, and like. Excuse me. Gotta get the snack. Love her. And like I Got a Feeling is such a great song. A great McCartney song. I mean, there's only one cover on here, which is Maggie May. Maggie May is a cover, right? It's a folk song from Liverpool. And I mean, it fit.
Yeah.
It fit.
And then I don't know if I've seen that one. Huh.
I don't think I've seen one either.
Check that out. Is that by Sean? Do you know if that's streaming anywhere? If not, it's still something I'm going to seek out. I'm just curious if that's streaming anywhere. And once again, hearing that when I got Let It Be Naked, and it was just like it's a treat because unlike those songs I heard like Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds, a lot of like the trippier stuff, I heard just on the radio. I had this CD, so I got to listen to Two of Us, I Dig a Pony, I've Got a Feeling, songs I'd never heard before, One After 909, just like being able to listen to those and get to know those songs for the first time. It was just like just lyrics. And then seeing the rooftop stuff from Get Back, a lot of stuff factors in, that's outside of the album. That was why it kind of resonates with me a lot more, and puts it to my number one. But like you said, we talked about it a lot during that, because that's just this was like the basis of that documentary. But yeah, it's just I just think like once again I'll echo this one thing and then I'll be done with this. But it's just even though there's some slower ballad songs, to your point, it's just how powerful they are, and that they don't slow the album down. Even though they're slower tempo, the album still keeps on that nice up and down flow of the album.
Yeah.
Guy, I appreciate you tuning in. It really does mean a lot. Please feel free to shoot out some of your favorite Beatles songs. Moment. It's anything you like. We always love the engagement. We've had some great engagement. And if any questions, any things you'd like to say about the Beatles, Guy, please. And I always appreciate you tuning in and supporting the channel. So thanks for tuning in. You tune in just in time though. If you're gonna tune in, you're gonna see the big reveal of the number one. My dad already knows, and I'm sure a couple of other listeners do as well.
Yep.
Chris, show us our number one.
All right, our number one
combined.
Yesterday was a great movie. It was a great Beatles film.
Oh, how did we not talk about that yet? Absolutely.
Because we're talking about the records. We're not talking anything else Beatles related. And
we
also
saw that together.
We did. That was before COVID.
Remember?
That was before COVID, where movies were just coming out of nowhere, and the cinemas were alive and well. Yeah, it's okay. I'll be depressed. It's fine.
no, but like, and this is just because it didn't get the buzz that obviously this is an Oscar bait. You can make the argument, but it's just like yesterday. Like, what a concept! It's simple, but also it's never been done before. And I thought, just love or hate Ed Sheeran. I liked what his character was, and like,
dude, he was killer.
And then just I apologize. I don't know the actor's name, but he did a great job. And I wish I did more research into if he knew the songs, how well he knew the Beatles. And he really did a good job singing. If it was him, I think it was, because I know he did the press tour. He actually performed some songs live.
Yeah.
Phenomenal. And my favorite scene, though, I loved how him remembering, like, going back to Eleanor Rigby, like, what does she keep it? What's in a jar? So seeing him remember from scratch all these songs. But my favorite scene, and I wonder if it's yours too, because I think we both looked at each other, and like when he goes to John, he sees that John Lennon's still alive.
Yeah.
And I forget. We both said, "Is that Julian?" It wasn't.
No, it wasn't. Yeah.
But that scene, like, he looked just like an older John you would think would look like.
Yeah.
And how powerful that scene was. So that was an awesome scene.
Yeah. No, that was probably my favorite. That was probably my favorite part in the movie. Besides, like, everybody trying to, how he tried to push his own songs after that. I think it was the best part of the film. He was like, "Yeah, these songs are great. I know, like, Long Winding Road, great song. But do you ever remember Summer Love?"
And then when he performs Yesterday for his friends and his reaction to, like,
it's like, this is Yesterday by the Beatles.
And
like,
his friend's reaction, like, "You wrote that?"
No. Okay, I think we left them waiting enough. So our number one, my number one favorite Beatles record of all time is Rubber Soul. And there's a lot to why this is my number one and why it's my favorite record possibly of all time. Flow is great. Like, the energy is alive. It's just one good song after another, but also this was the part in their career where they just started maturing. Like, they realized that touring life isn't fun. They want to get more serious. Sure, some other things are starting to become more influenced in here, but like, they kind of took a step back when they went and wrote the songs for this album. And they took a lot of inspiration from a lot of big artists. I mean, I Just Seen a Face is a solid song. And In My Life, Nowhere Man is also on this, I believe. Yeah.
Yep, I believe that's my dad's favorite.
Yeah.
Correct me, but I think that's what you're teasing.
Nowhere Man. Oh,
Another one we covered at the farmers market, and I think that was the
We
first
did?
time I really got introduced to that song. You guys suggested it, and
Oh no, really?
I believe so. Because once again, my knowledge of the Beatles was pretty much Beatles 1 and Let It Be
Yeah.
Naked at that time, and then the
Yeah.
couple of the trippier songs. But Nowhere Man, that's in my. I think I could put that in at least in my top 5.
Yeah.
But that's you go to their harmony. It's just the backing harmonies and just that's
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I also just resonated with this album so much. Especially at the time when I first heard it. Because it was I think it was my senior year of high school. And like I was kind of really I was just really starting to like play with other people. I had a band at the time. And then like I actually on top of that I was like trying to do my own thing as well. And I Benson was part of this. I wrote and recorded my very first album under my name, Christopher Renko. You could only find it in one place, and I'm never going to tell you where to find this album because I don't ever want to exploit that again. But this album gave me inspiration to really be like, you could be a musician. You could.
There's some good songs on that. Don't sell yourself short. There's some.
Sure. Sure there is. I listened to it as I found it. I listened to it a while ago, and I appreciated what I was trying to do. But yeah, Spencer, you were a part of that because we did the
Our Joy.
Our Joy, or something Benson and I put together in 5 minutes.
Instrumental ditty.
Yeah, but it was this album gave me the inspiration of I could be a musician. I could do what these guys did. I don't even know if Eddie is even still watching, or is in the chat or not. But Benson, Eddie, all these guys, like were part of my CD release show. I forget how big the lineup was. It was kind of big.
That was
like everybody did like maybe a 30-minute set, right? Because like we had the space open at 7:00 and we had it until 10. And I had like our friend Chris came and played with at the time he was with Branchwater, a local band that he played with the girls. I can't remember
Cosmic Cow. The Cosmic Cowgirls.
Cosmic Cowgirls, or something like that. The Cosmic Cowgirls, or something like that.
Oh, they were good. That was
yeah.
I did the
Had
weight.
them.
We're going so off rails with this, but I love it.
We had Budrus show up. We had Eddie do a lot of his solo stuff.
Colin was there. I think Colin did solo stuff.
Colin did some solo stuff because this was like right at the break of. What was this? After, before? No, this was after the Guru were done.
Yeah.
So this is my senior year of high school. So
I don't even think I had a lot of my songs written yet. I was still doing mostly covers.
Yeah, because you
played.
played.
We played, and I think I won't go into it. But one of my songs on my album is about someone, and I think that person was at that show. So that song hadn't been written yet, which is kind of funny how long ago that was. But yeah.
But like this album, yeah, like that's what I'm really trying to get. I guess like without this album, I probably wouldn't be the writer that I am now. Especially because like the favorite moment from that show that we played, because on that record too, I did a cover of Norwegian Wood.
Yes,
and like I knew I didn't know how big this song was, right? Because to me, I always thought like this was just a B-side, right? Like it's not in any of the popular Beatles lists that you see, and like their like most popular songs. But I loved it because like I started playing it, and then everybody starts singing it, and like everybody starts singing it. Oh wait, and Jack and Will were there.
That's
The
right.
Odd Bodies were there.
Early Odd Bodies were
Yeah,
there. Yeah.
early Odd Bodies. But yeah, like this album hits home for me. Like yeah, I got nothing else to say. Because every song is great, every melody, every line, every lyric, every guitar strum, every bass line, like there's just nothing on this album that does to me that doesn't scream Beatles. Like to me, this is the Beatles.
Who? How did you acquire your copy of this album?
Vinyl. Of course you would bring that up. Because I was in my vinyl collection phase, as one gets never gets out of. I still try to find at least my own collection of vinyls. That's not my father's 400, stack in my mom's place that now I own. But the one thing my dad never had was a lot of Beatles stuff. Like he had one of like the small, like I guess EP vinyls he had of it had what it had Come Together on it. It had Penny Lane. It was a small compilation thing. But Benson knew that I didn't have a decent Beatles record. Benson happened to have 2 copies of Rubber Soul, and as a gift, this guy gave me Rubber Soul. I think I still have it too, and I think I have it here. I'm around somewhere, guys. I'm sorry for my squeaky chair, by the way. I hope that didn't. I'm just realizing that's a squeaky chair. But yeah.
I had to throw that in there, but yeah, you mentioned how every song resonates with you, and you love every song on this album. But just we talked about we talked about Nowhere Man. You Won't See Me. I always loved again how the melodies go with that one. You won't see me.
Yeah.
So I always loved how the melodies flew with that one. The Word I always thought was a fun, cool, like just kind of like, I know it was in the 60s, but it's just like that 70s groovy. And Paul's bass, I love them. It's simple, but so like bum 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 bum. Like I loved how his bass was with that one. What Goes On, another Ringo cover of an old country song. Quick question: what do you prefer? 'Cause I could be wrong, but when you have Michelle and Girl, it was almost like Paul and John both wrote or like dueling writing an acoustic song, like the Lovish song. And which one do you prefer? Michelle's is kind of more popular one. I think I like Girl more because I think I don't know why. I think Michelle never really did much for me, but I kind of like what John did with Girl.
I like Girl, mostly with the theme of it. It's because its sound and its tone is like daydreamy.
Yeah.
Which is like most of the lyric of the song, like where he's just reminiscing on this one love interest that he had at the time. And like, I prefer Girl over Michelle too, just for that alone. But listen, Michelle, when he starts singing, some French,
which is
in there,
impressive.
it's a catchy song. It's a great love song. But I pick Girl over it for sure.
I'm Looking Through You is another just great McCartney song. Another song just like the lyrics, and just I love how that song flows. A couple other ones I want. So I was wrong. It wasn't Nowhere In, but my dad's favorite is In My Life. And yeah, Lennon's vocals on that song. That's another song where kind of another theory nerdy music thing, but it sounds like a harpsichord, but isn't it not a harpsichord? The little instrumental part.
I don't remember.
Someone told me. I don't
remember.
Or I saw something where it's actually something they did on the piano or keyboard that
I
I
wouldn't.
could be wrong.
I wouldn't doubt it.
Um,
I don't. I don't remember if it was a harpsichord or not because I always thought that it was. So I wouldn't doubt that they did something funky.
um,
But I also love, in my life has also become like a teaching tool for drummers. Because I've seen so many videos of like teachers explain to students that like just because you do fancy fills and you do cool tricks on the drums doesn't mean you're a great drummer. And like, in my life is a great example of how to be a drummer writing for a song rather than just playing drums for a song. Like he knew it's like the song is simple and not simple, but it's simplistic enough where it doesn't need much of like a beat to keep it going. Like he just has like he hits the floor, hits the kick, he hits the kick, and then just boom, bah, in the places, boom, bah, boom, bah, boom, bah. Like he just kept it simple, and then, like it really he gave it more color, doing the same beat, and then just adding the ride cymbal for the choruses and stuff. Like it was just such a simplistic beat that weirdly enough emphasized the whole piece.
yeah. And I just want to say about the last two songs. If I needed someone that's like a nice mellower song, but I kind of like how that song flows.
Yeah.
And then I mentioned how my Halloween playlist has two songs, Beatles songs on it. Run for Your Life is also on that along with Eleanor Rigby.
Oh, nice.
Because that song is just like so creepy. And it's just like you wouldn't think, like you just think of the Beatles and you wouldn't think they'd write a song that's about what that song is about. But it's just taking the the creepiness and what the song is about aside. It's just like I love this. How I love the flow of that song. It's like, and I'm blanking on the part that it's catch you with another man. That's the end. That was just I love how just like the vocals and how
he emphasizes on it, right? Like
I'm waiting. I'm sure it has been done already. That's just like horror movies love taking like doing a cover and slowing it down and making it like indie and creepy sounding. I'm surprised they haven't done this song. I know Beatles, discography costs a little bit, but like this is like a perfect song to hear in like a horror movie, slowed down, and just like about like a slasher. The song's a crazy song, but once again it's funny how it ends. This album ends on like I disagree with this. People say, how do you end this album with this song when you have a song like In My Life?
Yeah.
Which I get it, but I don't think it's that big of a deal. It's still an awesome kind of like it's the song they chose to put in the credits for Get Back too, which is a kind of random but kind of cool. It's a song that once again it's kind of a creepy song, but once again it just shows musically and just talent. It shows them do well. But we've talked about this. I'll bring it back. We've gushed over the Beatles a lot, especially on this album. But it's my number 3 or number 1, and there's just so going back. We talked about Nowhere Man earlier. That's one of my favorite Beatles songs of all time. We didn't even really talk about Drive My Car. It's not my favorite Beatles song, but it's a good way to start this album. And with the Beatles discography, we I think earlier on, when we first had this idea, like, do we incorporate the 45s, the singles, the UK releases, certain songs, because there's a lot of classic Beatles songs that aren't put on any of these 13 albums. Which is tough, but songs like Lady Madonna, which is another great piano song.
I mean, Don't Let Me Down, like there's a lot of songs that I wish we talked about.
Don't Let Me Down.
That's a single.
So that was a single before Rubber Soul came out?
No, not before. It's after. I'm just talking about their singles in general.
Gotcha.
I thought that's what you were talking about just now. I must have just misheard you.
Apologize. I didn't. Yeah. But songs that weren't on like any of their like Rain is another great song. Rain. Was that a single or was that on like a?
I think that was a single.
So it's just we could have gone on and on, and it's just around 2 hours now, but there's
I was so much. We really hit the 1 hour mark.
We got into some fun, kind of like side tangent and stories, and that were pretty much because of the Beatles. Those stories happened. So I kind of like how we brought in some personal stories. But yeah, I have no issues with this list. It was fun seeing our list and comparing them, and how there's a couple songs we had. Chin, perfect timing. Awesome. We're just about to end. All good, man. Just kidding. I appreciate you coming out and tuning in. Really, in all seriousness. No worries, man. No worries at all. You do a lot within the YouTube and comic book community. So it's like it's like with Guy, we had Sean, everyone who tuned in tonight and tuning in. I really do appreciate everyone tuning in. Chin, we were able to pull off a show and slides and transitions and stuff without you. So yay for us. But
just kick him to the curb already, man. Jesus Christ. Beat him while he's down.
That was a no, that came out terribly. God dang it.
It's okay. We'll get you speaking classes. It's okay.
I'm a communication major.
Benson. I'm done.
We're kind of we're trying to
No, Chimo, stay.
No. Insert foot in mouth. Seriously, that was on that.
Benson, he's kidding, man. He's kidding.
So it actually creates a kind of a pretty good segue. We'll put just that Chris and I, we could gush over the Beatles for, like you said, till 4 a.m. They're both of our favorite bands. Please, if you haven't watched, our review, our reaction to the Get Back documentary, definitely check that out. This was fun. Really happy we were able to do this, talk about the Beatles again. And I kind of like how I want to incorporate not just comic book stuff, but comic book movies, music, maybe a little sports here and there. So I'm happy we were able to do a video like this that was a couple years in the making. But with Chin being here, we were talking about our next video. It'll be next week or a week after or whenever. We want to do movie, top 10 movie trilogies overall. I think that could be a lot of fun, and I think that could bring some a lot of debate, because I know, well, I loved having Chin on the last show, and Chris, we had kind of a couple different alternating opinions. So to have that, I think with something like top 10 trilogies of all time, I think that could lead to some fun discussions, debate. If Chin's still friend with me now after my verbal diarrhea I just spewed out, that could
keep that inside, buddy.
I think a video like that could be fun, and So once again, thanks to everyone for watching. If you're watching on the rewind, appreciate it. If you haven't, just subscribe to the channel. I just hit 200 finally. With this channel being dormant for. With this channel being dormant for about a year.
He cares.
I'm happy to hit that milestone finally. And hey, I know it's not 2 in a month, but because of when we did the last one, that's 2 in a 2-week span. So that's progress. And Chin and Chris and I, we've talked about things, and we've talked about some other ideas. We have some that might be better down the road with releases of certain things coming out, but I have a lot of fun things in mind, possible interviews, bringing on people, and thank you for everyone tuning in. Continue tuning in. If you haven't, I'll do the whole subscribe, like, comment, share, all that fun stuff. It means a lot. Try to go from 200 and beyond. So Chris, before I do the final closing words, and thanks for being a part of this tonight. It was fun, us two fanboys of the Beatles, able to talk about it. Any nice closing words?
I got none besides
that'll be that'll be a Patreon episode.
I got a few right now. No, thank you guys for being here and supporting the Beast. He puts a lot out there in the community for sure, and for one Beatles fan to another guy. So let's keep the rock and roll rolling with these guys.
yeah, hopefully, if you're kind of a casual Beatles fan going into this and hearing us, blabber on for so long, but like hopefully it, please feel free to reach out or comment that like you did a little deep dive yourselves or checked out some things, and if you enjoyed or didn't enjoy, please feel free to put that in the comments, and I'd love to hear. Obviously, once again, I talk about Beatles for the end of time, so if we did anything to inspire you or to get your into checking out the Beatles, hearing that, just even if you ended up not liking anything or after checking it out, I'd love to hear that. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Once again, I'll say, if you go to my Instagram, which is, Mike B. Spenson, there's a link to this YouTube channel if you're by any chance not on this channel and you're watching it. But there's also a link to the album that I put out in November. We've mentioned our buddy Eddie, who was in the chat earlier, and he's been a big part, for my, my music, and a good friend, and one of the most, like Chris, one of the most talented musicians I know. He helped me put that CD, make that thing a reality. So that's out there on the interwebs, once, anywhere where you find music. Yeah, stay tuned. Hit those notifications so you can find out when the top, trilogies or top swear videos are coming out. And thank you, everyone. I can't express that enough. It really does mean a lot. Rock and roll. Go listen to some Beatles. Listen to some Ringo. Paul and John and George have some really good solo albums, but if you just want to be in a good mood, you're going to watch some live Ringo and his all-star band. How do you not feel good after that? Listen to Octopus.
That's fair. That's fair.
Listen to Octopus.
That's fair. That's fair. I'm gonna go now.
Guys, it's been late. Thank you for hanging on and joining, and really does mean a lot. Take it easy, everybody.
Bye, guys.